Well, Paul, if you can find me a safe haven in this market, I'd be the first one to sign up for that. But really, this week we have 16 central bank meetings, and it's amazing just how the probabilities have shifted in the last week alone. I mean, we're going to probably see tonight the Central Bank of Australia hike rates, right? So, the hikes are coming, right? But, I mean, we have so much going on this week between the Fed, the ECB. I mean, if you just look out to July, both Japan and the ECB, the BOJ and the ECB are expected to hike rates. So, I mean, what you're seeing is risk premium being priced into global yield curves writ large, and the U.S. is seeing the same.
So is there a play here in your world? Because your world has been acting very well. People actually want to talk to you at cocktail parties. So what's the state of the EM market these days?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously weren't listening last week on Tuesday and Wednesday when I was here, because I am pretty bearish. And I have to be honest with you, this one doesn't really give me much. I mean, what we've seen over the weekend, it just doesn't look like this is going to end anytime soon. And, what we are getting closer to are outright production cuts. And when you start cutting production in the Middle East, it takes it takes time to ramp it back up. And so I think, markets are pricing that in. They're right to price in dollar strength here. But where else do you turn, Paul? I mean, that is the question. Gold has, come off. The Swiss franc, okay, fine. I mean, it's one of the best of the worst. The Canadian dollar is one of the very few currencies since the 27th of February that last I checked was actually up versus the dollar. But it's one of, 42, I think. So, there's just really very few places for investors to turn to in this environment outside of cash.
Talk to us about oil and what it means for your markets, the emerging markets. We know that the U.S. is now a net exporter, so maybe a little bit of a less of an impact. But boy, for a lot of the countries that you follow, a lot of it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, Asian FX is getting hit here. And I point out Korea, I point out India. You've now got 75 bips of hikes priced in through the end of the year in India, 80 bips of hikes priced in through the end of the year in South Korea. I mean, well, that's the thing, right? I mean, it's a trade-off, right? Because I'll tell you what it comes down to, right? It comes down to a lot of these countries. South Korea is one where they have to put fuel subsidies in place. They have to stimulate fiscally to get through, the next 12 months. And so that alone might, kind of, be the kind of stimulus they prefer to take. So you don't know if they're going to actually implement, hikes and do through the monetary mechanism or through the fiscal side.
That Philippine peso record weakness today. It almost hit the emotional 60 level. I'm looking at your Korean won popping 1,500 won to the dollar right now, 14.89. I mean, obviously, if it breaks through the weakness, the dumb move is to raise rates, protect the currency. But pushing against that is history, isn't it?
Well, I mean, remember, all these countries have a lot of debt. And what I just said about, fuel subsidies and fiscal stimulus costs money. And these countries are then going to have to tap the markets at much higher yields in order to
Do they
to
dial
fund it.
1-800-Chairman Powell?
They usually do, right? And so, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point, I mean, I'm not kidding you, where if we get to a point where, the financial plumbing, some of the mechanisms we saw in place some years back kind of rear their ugly heads again. I'm talking FX swap lines, I mean, but look, central banks are smarter, the resilience of these markets. I mean, credit spreads have yet to move here. And I think there's a lot of reasons that we're not going to go into about shadow banking that are suppressing spreads at current levels. But, as you and I discussed last week, that's another risk that people are really starting to focus on. And so, look, you just saw, Mercedes sweep at the F1 over the weekend. I mean, it was unbelievable. And, I mean, look, second youngest driver, Antonelli, to ever win an F1 Grand Prix. So kudos to him. I mean, Mercedes is back. And yeah, I mean, look, you had the Players' Championship. I mean, Paul, I know you were watching yesterday. Fitzpatrick reading Cam Young. I mean, what an awesome event that was. And obviously Duke. It's all about Duke, right?